Hello and welcome to another fairy tale story. Last week we had lots of stories that were fairy tales. This week I'm starting off with Goldilocks and the Three Bears. It's retold and illustrated by Jan Brett. She is one of my favorite authors and illustrators. Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Goldilocks and the Three Bears, retold and illustrated by Jan Brett. Once upon a time, there were three bears who lived together in the house in a wood. One of them was a little small wee bear, and one was a middle-sized bear, and the other was a great huge bear. They each had a bowl for their porridge, a little bowl for the little small wee bear, a middle-sized bowl for the middle-sized bear, and a great huge bowl for the great huge bear. And they each had their own chair to sit in. A little chair for the little small wee bear, a middle-sized chair for the middle-sized bear, a great huge chair for the great huge bear, and they each had a bed to sleep in. A little bed for the little small wee bear, a middle-sized bed for the middle-sized bear, and a great huge bed for the great huge bear. One day, after they made their porridge for breakfast and poured it into their porridge bowls, they walked out into the woods while their porridge was cooling. But look, who's spying? While they were walking, a little girl named Goldilocks came to their house. First she looked in the window, then she peeped in the keyhole, and seeing no one was home, she lifted the latch. The door opened before her, and in she went. How pleased Goldilocks was when she saw the steaming porridge on the table. The sweet smell of the porridge with the roasted nuts and honeys and berries filled the room. It was so tempting that Goldilocks set about helping herself. First, she tasted the porridge of the great huge bear, but it was too hot. Then she tasted the porridge of the middle-sized bear, but it was too cold. And then she tried the porridge of the little small wee bear, and it was neither too hot nor too cold, but it was just right. And she liked it so much she ate it all up. Then Goldilocks sat down in the great huge bear's chair, but it was too hard for her. Then she sat down in the chair of the middle-sized bear, but it was too soft for her. Then she sat down in the chair of the little small wee bear, and this chair was neither too hard nor too soft, but just right. So Goldilocks seated herself, and there she sat until the bottom of the chair gave away, and she came down with a plump and upon the floor. Then Goldilocks went upstairs to the bedroom in which the three bears slept. First she laid down upon the great huge bear, the bed of the great huge bear, but that was too high for her head. Next she lay upon the bed of the middle-sized bear, but that was too high for at the foot for her. So she laid down upon the bed of the little small wee bear, and that was neither too high at the head nor the foot, but just right. So she covered herself up comfortably and fell fast asleep. By the time the three bears thought their porridge would be cool enough to eat, they returned home for breakfast. Now Goldilocks had left a spoon of the great huge bears standing in his porridge. "Somebody's been eating my porridge," said the great huge bear in his great rough, gruff voice. And then the middle-sized bear looked at hers and saw that her spoon was standing in it too. "Somebody's been eating my porridge," said the middle-sized bear in her middle-sized voice. Then the little small wee bear looked at his bowl, and the spoon was in his porridge bowl, but the porridge was all gone. "Somebody's been eating my porridge, and has eaten it all up," said the little small wee bear in his little small wee voice. Oh. Upon this, the three bears, seeing someone had entered their house, had eaten up little small wee bear's breakfast, they began to look about them. Now Goldilocks had not put the hard cushion straight when she rose from the chair of the great huge bear. "Somebody has been sitting in my chair," said the great huge bear in his great rough, gruff voice. And Goldilocks had crumpled the soft cushion of the middle-sized bear. "Somebody has been sitting in my chair," said the middle-sized bear in her middle voice. And you know what Goldilocks had done to the third bear's chair. "Somebody's been sitting in my chair, and it has the bottom right out of it," said the little small wee bear in his little small wee voice. Then the bears thought it was necessary that they should make further search, so they went upstairs to their bedroom. Now Goldilocks had pulled the pillow of the great huge bear out of its place. "Somebody's been lying in my bed," said the great huge bear in his great rough, gruff voice. And Goldilocks had pulled the cover of the middle-sized bear out of its place. "Somebody's been laying in my bed," said the middle-sized bear in her middle-sized voice. And then the little small wee bear came to look at his bed. There was Goldilocks, sleeping peacefully in her long, shiny braids spread across her pillow. Little small wee bear just stared at her for a moment and didn't say anything. But then he cried out, "Somebody has been laying in my bed, and here she is." Goldilocks had heard in her sleep the great rough, gruff voice of the great huge bear and the middle-sized voice of the middle-sized bear, but it was only as if she had heard someone speaking in a dream. But then when she heard the little small wee voice of the little small wee bear, it was so sharp and so shrill and so like her own that it had awakened her at once. Up she started, and when she saw the three bears on one side of the bed, she tumbled herself out the other and ran to the window. Out Goldilocks jumped and ran away as fast as she could run, not looking behind her until she was very far away. And what happened to Goldilocks afterward? No one can tell. But the three bears never saw anything more of her. The end. So this was a great fairy tale. What's one of the things that told me that this was a fairy tale? What was one of its elements? It did start off with those famous start lines. Did it happen in the woods? It did. But it also starts with once upon a time. It does have another element too. So let's go look. Let's look through our elements. Let's find out what we have. For Goldilocks, here are elements for Goldilocks. Sometimes they can have more elements. But the first element we have is that there's a group of three. The three bears. The second one we have, it happens in the woods. So I'm going to write woods. The third thing is, are there talking bears? Yes, there are talking bears. There's talking animals. And there is a problem. Who's that problem? Goldilocks. Okay, so the plot of this one is a girl who what? What does she do? I want you to think about, what does Goldilocks do? Okay, because we're going to be writing about it. What would you do if you stumbled upon the three bears' cottage? What would you do? Would you eat their porridge? Would you sit in their chairs? Would you, take a nap in their beds too? What would you do? Think about it.